the more urbanized the country, the less inclined people are to populate. That's true. Why is it that way? Why is it that when a society gets wealthier and more urbanized, that it has a low population, a low birth rate? Why? That's what I want to know. Help me out here. Help me understand this. Don't understand what kind of sacrifices need to happen to make a marriage to work. Okay? Somebody help me. I'm a Middle Eastern, second generation Middle Eastern guy. I don't understand how these things work. Why do people decide not to have children nowadays? Why is it that in your grandparents' generation and your great-grandparents' generation, it was very common for people to have a lot of kids? Bach, the composer, had, 15 kids, 16 kids? Madin Marais, French composer, had, I think, 18 children, and that was back in the 1700s. So why is it that today married couples don't have kids? Help me out here. Help me understand this. Help me understand this, guys. Eugenics. Okay, you can say eugenics. That's fine. But that doesn't explain why people make the decision not to have children. What's going on? India population is still rising. That's correct. And they're very poor, and yet they have more kids. So help me out here. Cities were invented by Cain, so they are inherently antichrist and bad values. Okay? It's because the women, if given the choice, they really don't want to deal with children. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody finally said it. Somebody finally said it. Thank you. When times are easy, women want equality. When times are tough, that's okay, honey. I'll stay home and raise the children. Because sex isn't about procreation, but about the feeling sensation. Edwin Weber gave the best answer. It's because the women, if given the choice, really don't want to deal with kids. That's the reason why. They'll say, I can't afford it. The very people who say they can't afford it, you see them at the Apple store paying thousands of dollars for computers and phones. They got DoorDash. They don't mind paying $20 for a hamburger using DoorDash. They got Netflix. They got all sorts of shit. They got Shudder, Disney Plus, Schmuck Plus, New York City Plus. They're on medication. You see them taking psychological medication. So I don't know. Then you see a bunch of poor people and they're having more kids. So it's modern women. Rural people need children to help work the farm. Urbanization, industrialization, you need a list people. Yeah. It's modern women. I mean, that's it. They don't want to have, they just don't want kids. People find excuses for not wanting something, right? You see this with men also when they say, well, the reason why I don't want to get married is because I don't want to get divorced, raped. But then you actually look at the statistics of that and you realize that doesn't really happen very often. So what's the real reason that you don't want to have kids? You don't want to get married. A lot of men, millennial men, don't want to be married. That's it. That's just but they're too afraid to just admit, I don't want to be married. I like being alone. I don't want somebody telling me what to do. I don't want people giving me a hard time over bullshit. I don't want to be married. A lot of men don't want to be married because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with a woman. That's it. But they'll say, well, I'm afraid of the courts nowadays, man. It's the courts. That's the reason why. Sure it is. Sure it is. You just don't want to be married. It's probably, yeah, I'll just stop there. You don't want to be married. People just don't have time. After 9-to-5 job, most people don't have time to raise kids. You don't think people were having kids back in the day when they were working their asses off doing mine work? Weren't people working in mines back in the day? People were working. You don't think people were working in the days when it was common for people to have lots of kids? My great-grandmother worked her ass off. She started a little salon in Eureka, California, where she was living. A lot of people worked back in the day. So people didn't work back in the day when they had 9 kids in a family. I mean, my grandfather, on my mother's side, he worked his ass off. He worked very hard. worked his ass off, working in a kitchen, cleaning dishes, cleaning windows. I mean, worked his ass off, and he had 10 kids. So that's see, again, people just don't want to say, I don't want to have kids because I don't want to deal with some crying babies. Let's be real here. They don't want to get up at 3 a.m. to feed a baby. They don't want to wake up and clean a diaper and smell shit. They don't want to sit there and feed some baby food, buying Goober, sticking applesauce in a baby's mouth. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to go to a movie theater and then the baby's crying and they feel embarrassed. So instead of saying, I don't want to deal with that, they say, well, I can't afford it. Really, homie? You can't afford it? But then you see them with 20 pairs of shoes in the house. So people hide why they don't want to do stuff. You see this with men. Well, I don't have a girl. Well, so why don't you have a girlfriend? Because I'm afraid that she gonna accuse me of rape. Well, but bitch, when does that ever happen? Seriously, you think men everywhere are just being accused of rape all the time? Let's be real here. You don't have a girlfriend because you're not good at talking to people. You're too embarrassed to say it. You're afraid of rejection. But you're too afraid to say it. So you say, well, I'm afraid of getting arrested. You ain't gonna get arrested for having a girlfriend. This is crazy. This is so... Just admit that you don't want to be rejected. You're terrified of rejection. That's it. Because women reject men all the time. Until the marriage laws change, why would men marry? Well, aren't you married? Always get prenup if get married. There we go. I myself don't want to get married. I'm open to adopt, but I don't have the patience for women. There you go. There you go. That's an honest answer. I'm afraid of my child becoming a non-Christian and joining the world becoming a disappointment. I've had those same fears before, but you can prevent that from good parenting. My father and my father's side had 8 kids. My buddy's daughter has 11 children. Wow. Same father. Wow. That's good. That's crazy. That's amazing, actually. What else do we got here, guys?